Quite a steep one, isn't it? And especially after some intense, hard racing. But just seeing in the background there, looks like two groups might potentially come back together. Seeing a rider here in the middle. So it looks like going into lap 2, we might have a big group now, Becca.
Yeah, we've said it before that it could all come back together. Certainly a lot of interest in there. There's some key riders that missed that breakaway of 9. They'll be doing everything in their power to get it back. And we are seeing that gap close down now as we come on to the second lap of tonight's women's race. 13.8 kilometres remaining. We've got the Queen of the Mountain coming up, the second intermediate point that they can go for there. And we've got our second sprint of the day, and then it is all to play for the victory. Looks like that chasing group is definitely closing things down now. Probably going to see a change of play on the road. One rider from Canyon SRAM there, but as I say, plenty of interest from their team behind and getting this back.
Yeah, Hannah Ludwig in this front group for Canyon SRAM, 19-year-old. She's the under-23 European individual time trial champion on the road, and she recently just took her first in the youth classification at the Benny Ladies Tour. So we know she's in good form and a very, very savvy rider to boot as well, the young German.
And I think we've got a real mix in here, haven't we now, of shall we say, more experienced riders and some very young emerging talents coming through as well on the road again and in Zwift.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at the likes of Hannah, who's 19. You've got Tanya, she's 29, soon to be 30 in around 10 days' time. But, you've also got riders like Claudia Behring and Louise Huback. Louise Huback, she's a mother of 2. She works full time, and it's incredible to see that age is no barrier, and also it's just hard, grippy racing.
It is, and I think that is such a huge element of what Zwift has brought on so many different levels, is role models, is accessibility for people, and people coming through to such success from the academy.
Yeah, definitely, and it's not limiting. It's not exclusive. Anyone can do it, and I just think it's incredible that how it's grown.
It certainly has, and it has inspired many, many people, as it looks like that group has now come back together. Now, we mentioned that there was some interest and people we thought might go for that victory, namely from the team Canyon SRAM. They were tactically playing that. They had one of their teammates up the road, but Tanya Erith, I've no doubt, has got her eye on victory tonight, and this group is swelling now.
Yeah, it's great to see that Tanya's got back into this group before, give a bit of help to teammate Hannah Ludwig. But, actually this circuit really does suit Tanya. She's a really powerful rider, great sprinter, but also, recently this year, having done a lot of altitude training, her climbing abilities have come on leaps and bounds. So that sort of draggy finish should definitely suit her.
And that's the thing when we look at a team comprising the talent like Canyon SRAM, is actually we can't necessarily predict what they're going to do, especially on a circuit like this, because they have got so much strength in the team. And actually I can imagine them just going with the position they've got on the race night and exploiting that, because they've got options for the win.
Yeah, definitely they have, and especially with Christa Raffel, their German teammate. Brilliant young rider, and with Ronnie Lauker as their sports director, giving them all the feedback of tonight's racing as well. He's one of the best in the business.
Well, we have had plenty of exciting action. We're absolutely loving it here in the commentary box, that's for sure. 12.1 kilometres remaining, but let's take a look back now at how things have unfolded in Yorkshire so far. And this was the Huback attack.
Will we see her do it again? This is the thing, has she got the legs after that huge effort that, she might have been hoping that she would have stayed away or at least brought a couple of riders with her. We did see, the group of 9, but with no cooperation within that group, it did mean that the larger group behind chasing came back together. But this, definitely potentially could be another one for Louise Huback to attack on the Queen of the Mountain and try and get away again and just do a long-range attack. She knows she's strong enough. She should be confident.
Well, that was the moment that we saw Louise Huback do her trademark attack, like you say, Hannah, something we could potentially see her try to do again on this lap and later on towards the finale as well. But yeah, it's something she's done time and time again, and actually just the devastating power she puts out, not many people can respond.
No, it's mightily difficult, and she is one to watch though because she won the last Zwift Classic in Innsbruck. So all eyes are on her. You can't let a rider like that gain too much time, and as soon as they attack or get away, you kind of bring them back immediately. There's nothing you can't save your legs when she gets away. That's for sure.
Not a sight anyone wants to see from the chasing pack, is it? And we are now back with the live race action. We've seen a little replay of that instrumental move earlier, but we're seeing this bigger front group now. We predicted that gap that was hovering around 17 seconds at one point would potentially come back, and now we are looking at Hannah Ludwig, who was in that group of 9. She's been joined by her teammate. At least one other of the Canyon SRAMs has come over to her in the form of Tanya Erath. Seeing Vicky Whitelaw's data, 255 watts, 180 beats per minute. You can see this race is really on.
Yeah, just with that heart rate so high. But, there's no surprise. We're at a gradient of 2-3% here and, speeds of 43k an hour. So, it just shows, they're not hanging around. And especially, with a 10.7 kilometers to go, it's, no hanging around. It's all in now.
It certainly is all in. We are on the second lap, and it is Tanya Erath of Canyon SRAM that came across from that chasing group. It got splintered apart with the huge Hubak attack and further whittled down on those Queen of the Mountains and the sprint point as well. But it is Erath that is now joined by Vicky Whitelaw.
Well, what a sneaky move that was from Erath. She didn't really look like she was putting down too much power. Didn't, do such a huge power effort, but certainly opened up a gap to the group, meaning they had to chase her back. And, it's moves like that where, you can't be too careful.
And we look like we've got 19 in this lead group now. But this is the thing, as you say, it saps every time. You have to make an effort that you don't really want to do. But everyone's getting back on this straight away. They're not letting Erath or Whitelaw get away.
Yeah, if you look at this course now, we're going in a straight line. As soon as you see someone attack, you can get them back as quick as possible. It's when you can attack and you're out of sight, out of mind. When in the twisty sections of the course, that's the perfect time to attack. And on the long straights, you know exactly how far ahead the riders are as we take this right-hand turn on the top of the course.
And it does make such a difference. We see it time and time again, don't we? That sort of out of sight, out of mind. And then once the chasers can get that group in sight, or indeed sometimes a solo, it just starts to tumble down. Helen McKay, 204 watts, 167 beats per minute. Someone very instrumental in the action already tonight. Constantly there, ever present. Applebaum having a good night as well.
Yeah, Helen McKay really just sitting in tight, not showing her cards too often. Just, it kind of sit in, use the draft of the rest of the peloton, save your energy, and save it in for maybe one huge attack, a devastating attack that people can't bring back.
Now, you mentioned earlier, yourself and John, about looking around at the sheep on this course. It is indeed a beautiful course, but I don't think there's much time for that.
There's certainly not any time for looking at the scenery here on the Harrogate circuit. Especially when you can see, the power and the speed and the heart rate, it hasn't dropped at all. And as we start this descent, this is probably one of the last chances for riders to really get a little bit of recovery, also get into that super tuck and save your energy, use the draft of the peloton going down here. As we see now, we're doing 78 kilometers an hour down this pot bank.
Well, this front group back together now. Of course, we've lost riders. It splintered along the way, but that very reduced group was joined by the chasers. Melanie King currently sat in 17th, putting out 229 watts. We saw the speed really pick up on that descent, and albeit a little bit of a respite, really no time as we're on the second lap for anyone to sit back and let anything go, or indeed not keep a close eye on their very key rivals. 8 kilometers remaining. Applebaum ever present at the front. Tanya Erath. Couple of times now, we've seen her get a little bit of a gap, but no one is letting that go, namely Vicky Whitelaw, who we know is super strong.
Yeah, she's glued to Tanya's wheel. Every time she attacks, she's right on it. And, you know, there's no surprise because Tanya is such a strong rider. You know, she won the Zwift Academy in 2017 and just recently was 4th in the prologue in the Belgium Tour with her road team Canyon SRAM. And also, you know, like as we said before, come back from altitude, many altitude camps this year. So form is strong, but is she showing herself a little bit too early?
Well, that's the thing. She's a very marked rider indeed. In fact, the entire team, as we've said, they've got options. They've got a lot of talent in there. We saw Ludwig in that front group, seeing her still in this bigger group now. She was joined, of course, by the chasers. I think we've got about 19 here at the moment, seeing Christy Tracy. She's been up at the front there with her teammate, 323 watts currently. And once again, Erith keeping an eye on the front, followed by Vicky Whitelaw. Helen McKay, looking out for her in that purple jersey. Someone, again, that never drifts too far from the front.
A rider we've not seen too much of is the British champion, Rosamund Bradbury. Very, very strong, powerful rider. You know, really keeping her powder dry. And but she has got a strong team around her of Team Turbo. Sports director Ollie Jones. They've got Mary Wilkinson in there, Helen McKay, of course, her teammate. As we just see Eppelbaum come to the front.
Very interesting stage of the race now. 7 kilometres remaining on this second lap of just 2 laps tonight, as we expect to start seeing these moves go ahead of the final Queen of the Mountain classification of today. People will be wanting to fight for that line, fight for those points. Sharon Bird there, 266 watts, seeing that really ramp up now after that fast descent a little bit earlier.
Yeah, well, how special would it be to take the first victory here on the Harrogate circuit? Plenty of people watching here at home as well, so the eyes are all on the world of Harrogate.
Certainly is. Absolutely buzzing. And we mentioned that Queen of the Mountain, see the pace going up, see those gaps start to open because we are now on it.
Yeah, you just see positioning is key, and the speed again that they go into this Queen of the Mountain. You know, this is the point now where you can't leave anything. You can't save anything left until the end. You just need to go with any move that happens because, you know, once the gaps start opening, it's going to be mightily hard to come back. And, you know, if you want to get the win, you've got to be in it to win it.
You certainly have, Hannah. And it's the point where you least want to have to hurt. You're already hurting, but you've got to go. You've got to respond because there are people that will take every opportunity to get a gap and push it over after this line.
Well, just look at young Hannah Ludwig here, the 19-year-old, pushing the pace. She has that feather power up, but she's taking with her Louise Huback, the winner of the previous Queen of the Mountain. So it looks like there's 3 riders going clear now. Mary Wilkinson there as well. Great hill climber. So just look at the gap to the peloton that they're opening up. The pace set by Hannah Ludwig here. Astonishing.
Well, Hannah Ludwig was up the road ahead previously. The group came back together. She went again and indeed is now leading the way up this second and final Queen of the Mountain here on the world's course in Harrogate. See what she's putting out now, over 331 watts. As we are on this second Queen of the Mountain.
Well, just look at Claudia Hansen there, the Swedish national champion, just making her move there. Real sneaky attack and putting all the power down to try and take maximum points in this Queen of the Mountain.
Oh my goodness. The pace tonight is absolutely blistering, isn't it?
Well, just look at the damage that Hannah Ludwig first of all did, and then the attack by Hansen there. It's just decimated the field. But it's 2 riders from the same team going for it. So it looks like Huback and Hansen up there. Huback's overtaken Hansen. She looks like she's going to take max points.
Well, let's see what happens when they actually cross this second banner for the last time here. And yeah, it is these 2 teammates that look to be putting a huge gap in behind them.
Well, just look at the teamwork there. Hansen sitting behind Huback, making sure that Huback will take maximum points in this Queen of the Mountain. Very, very smart.
Very smart move. And as you say, the perfect team tactics with the duo from the same team up the road together. You can just see, you've mentioned it, the devastation behind. Look at that gap now. Just see that time gap going up. And they are not going to look back now. It is a case of pressing on and actually maximising what they've got in terms of a gap.
Well, the two Scandinavian riders going for it. They just need to keep the pressure on. You can see they're putting out, 236 watts there by Hansen, 183 beats per minute. So you can just see how hard that effort was.
So, Louise Huback there taking the maximum 5 points, followed by Hansen there. Rosamund Bradbury took 2 points in third, and Mary Wilkinson, we knew she'd respond. She took 1 point.
These riders taking it in turns to do all the work.
And there we have it. That is the Queen of the Mountain overall points after 2 of 2 sprints. And it is Huback that has 10, Hansen with 5, Falk with 3 there. Bradbury takes 2, and Mary Wilkinson takes the 1 on that final sprint there.
Well, these two riders doing a great job. 55 kilometers per hour down this descent now. There seems to be a little bit of a reaction behind, but the group is definitely reduced.
It certainly is reduced. It was whittled down there with that absolutely blistering attack there, and perfect teamwork from Hansen and Huback. Such a strong duo up the road. 3.6 kilometers to go, second lap of 2, and we've got that sprint coming up as well. They will want to continue this. That group behind, though, is bearing down.
Well, just look at the charge from Sharon Bird up there, and Rosamund Bradbury trying to close into this duo. They want to do it, especially before they get to the sprint point as well. As you said, 3.4 kilometers to go in this Harrogate circuit.
Yeah, and it's only ever going to get harder after a sprint. As we saw earlier, when the riders go for that sprint and there's already a gap, it just has that potential to further increase and get even harder to get back in contention for that win.
Well, 6 chasers in that group, including Mary Wilkinson, Britt Mason, Sharon Bird, Hannah Ludwig, as we've spoken about before, Vicky Whitelaw. So, it's kind of actually going away from them a little bit. That gap is definitely increasing, 8 seconds now. Just the pace is just too hot.
It really is. And we had a go at predictions, but it's been so tough to call it tonight, hasn't it? Looking down that start list and the lineups from the teams tonight has been very, very hard to call. And we are looking at what will happen now coming up to this final sprint.
Yeah, perfect use of the feather power up there from Hansen. Getting rid of the power, that feather power up in hope that she will get an arrow as she goes through the sprint banner. She's taking maximum points.
Well, as you could see, such a huge gap there. There was no one else that was going to take first and second, but these two teammates. We've got Hansen and Huback up the road, and it still doesn't look like we've seen our third and fourth rider come across the banner line there. So we'll look for confirmation when that has happened. But an increasing gap here looks at 20 seconds now to the rider behind, which is Britt Mason. So it is Hansen that takes 5 then, followed by her teammate Huback, who takes 3 in that sprint point. Britt Mason takes 2, and Hannah Ludwig, we talked about her a lot from Canyon SRAM, she takes the 1. And here, sorry Hannah, just going to confirm the sprint points overall. It's Hansen with 10, they're leading the way. Britt Mason with 4, Huback takes 3, Falk 3, and Ludwig with 1.
This duo going at 52 kilometers an hour here, so there's no respite, there's no letting up as they've increased the gap to the chasers. 22 seconds now to Vicky Whitelaw, Britt Mason, Hannah Ludwig. So, should they keep the pressure on here? It doesn't look like this duo will be caught.
It's going to be a mightily tough job to do anything about these two. 22 seconds now to the next place rider, which is Mary Wilkinson out on the road as well. And she's being chased by Ludwig, Canyon SRAM. We've seen her instrumental so far. She's put a lot in so far in this race tonight. 1.5 kilometers remaining on this final lap.
It's just a question of how are this pair going to play it? They're both teammates. So, have they got a deal of who will take the victory tonight? Is it just going to be, okay, let's see what happens when we get to, 200, 300, 400 meters to go and, sort of race it out from there. But until then, we'll just keep it together. We'll work together and we'll try and hold off the chasers.
Have you been in this scenario, Hannah?
Yes, I have. Both in real life racing and in Zwift racing, it's a hard one. But as you can see, actually, 15 seconds now. So that gap is coming down to those chasers. Have they got enough time to hang on?
Can it come back, Hannah? It's sort of coming down, hovering at 19, going back down to 15. Oh, it's just gone up there to 21 seconds. 1K to go.
1K to go. This is where we could see some cagey racing taking place. Could be some cat and mouse. But, you know, it's one of those where you don't want to go too early. You've entered the town of Harrogate. Don't get too excited too early, because that finishing straight, don't forget, is a very, very hard one.
Well, bearing at 21 seconds there, Ludwig just moving 22 seconds behind. We've just got 700 metres of racing remaining, and it doesn't look like anybody in that decimated field can do anything about these two teammates. It's been Huback and Hansen all the way as they make that final turn. They come past the Zwift Draft House, and what are they going to do here? Two teammates fighting it out all the way to the line.
Both got feather power-ups as well, both using it at the decisive moment of the start of the finishing straight. Incredible.
Just coming alongside each other now. What are we going to see? All the way to the line. It's Hansen and Huback. Who of the teammates will take it? Just 350 metres remaining on this very difficult run into the finish. What a drag.
Well, just look at this. Louise Huback is riding away now from Hansen. She's opening up a gap. Has she gone too early, though? Because it's one of those courses you're still dragging up. It's still dragging up at 2%. But Huback still leads from Hansen, as we haven't seen the sprint completely open yet. As we get to 100 metres to go, it's now Hansen who opens up now. 9.3 watts per kilo. She's going to the line here in Harrogate. Will she take the victory? It looks like she'll beat Huback. Hansen, the Swedish national champion, takes the victory here in Harrogate. And who will take third? Oh, that was a close one.
That was a close fight for third there. Let's take a look and see who crossed the line to finish off those podium positions. Oh my goodness, though, Hannah. Hansen taking the victory from Louise Huback. We found that very hard to call in the end there and predict.
Yeah, it was what a race, but you know, brilliant teamwork from Innovation Cycling. But it was Hansen timed that to perfection. Didn't go too early. 100 meters to go. Fantastic.
I mean, they used the team tactics perfectly, but then, like we said, could happen. It just looked like it was just a, come on, we're up the road, let's just fight it out.
You know, and maybe there was a little bit of chat. It's like, okay, Huback, you know, you won the Queen of the Mountains, and Huback said, you know, come on, Hansen. But to be honest, the way they sprinted like that, I think that was all out and very competitive.
I don't think it was too measured, was it? It was an all-out battle there. Let's once again revisit that moment and look at that winning move from Cecilia Hansen. Coming up to the line here. I mean, that was a super strong move from both of them to get away, and then a brilliant finale.
Well, just the sprint that she opened up in the end, you know, she won by around 2 seconds there from Huback. But, you know, timed it to perfection as we get confirmation of the full results.
So it was indeed Hansen, that is confirmed, to have taken the top spot, followed by her teammate of Team Innovation, Louise Huback. And in third, it was Team Turbo's Mary Wilkinson. No surprises there. What a strong ride from her yet again. Fourth, Brett Mason, followed by Vicky Whitelaw. And Rosamund Bradbury, a rider we talked about, taking sixth there. But Hannah Ludwig, Canyon, she had a great night. Seventh, and BR Head, ever present in the action already this year on Zwift. She took eighth. Well, let's take a look at the moment that they got away. Here it is. And you said it before, Hannah, everything just split to pieces at this point in the race.
Yeah, it was a really decisive move from when Hannah Ludwig first made the move on the Queen of the Mountain. But you went when Hansen went, and you know, she just decimated the field. No one could hang on to her, and that really was the deciding move in tonight's race. Huback was the only rider that could, you know, hang on to that blistering pace.
And what a perfect scenario, though, Hannah, when your teammate is the one that you see coming up to you.
Yeah, I think, you know, Hansen would have been delighted to see that, and you know, it's almost such a nice feeling to have a teammate there, and both such strong riders as well, very experienced on Zwift, and you know each other very well.
They are, and that experience so important, because we saw the absolutely perfect use of any power-up that they could at the exact right time.
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right. You know, going into the Queen of the Mountain here, timed it to perfection, and you know, it was lucky as well that they had the feather power-ups, and yeah, it just shows the experience. It really does shine through.
Certainly did, and there we have it. The Queen of the Mountain points of the day, Louise Huback, 10. Cecilia Hansen with 5, Kristen Falk with 3, Rosamund Bradbury 2, and Mary Wilkinson 1. As we get sights here of the Harrogate course, we've mentioned the buzz, but what a legacy we are seeing created in Yorkshire in the UK.
Yeah, it's just been absolutely fantastic. The crowds that have come out, and the draft house has been buzzing every night, and it's a real buzz, and what a pleasure to be a part of it.
Well, it was Hansen that made that move earlier on. I think we can take a look at an action replay of that moment now, and here we have it. A little bit of a slow-mo replay there, and we can already see that was 16.6 kilometres remaining, the damage that was done. We saw things split to pieces, and confirmation of those sprint points. Hansen taking 10, Britt Mason 4, Louise Huback 3, Falk 3 as well, and Hannah Ludwig taking 1 point overall today.
Innovation Cycling really cleaning up tonight on the Zwift Classics.
Confirmation then of the overall standings. Cecilia Hansen having a brilliant night for Team Innovation, taking the win. A reminder there of the rest of those standings. In second, it was her teammate Louise Huback. Also, Team Innovation fought it all out to the line, but brilliant team tactics up until that point, and a huge gap that nobody could close down. Mary Wilkinson of Team Turbo taking 3rd, Britt Mason in 4th there, Whitelaw, Bradbury, Ludwig, Bjarhead, Bearing and Bird. Well, time now to turn our attention to the next race of tonight. It is almost time for the men's race. John Mould took a look at the course with a little bit of a recce.
Anyone who's on the start line has got a chance of winning, so it'll be an exciting one. If you're not on it from the start, you could be spat out the back. That'd be your race over. There could be someone really brave for a long-range attack, but it is still a long way to the finish. If you want a breather, this is the way you're going to take it. Every little counts. Time to have a drink and get ready for the rest of the race. As you just finished that last descent, you can see the start of the KOM and the stone bridge, and that's where it all starts. Make sure you're in a good position. You don't want to be too far back. It's quite a hard gradient, but it gets steeper as it gets to the top. With an effort around 2 minutes, going to be full anaerobic. As you turn right by the draft house, this is where it kicks up. Just over 500 metres to go. If you want to go early and you've got good legs, I'd be definitely trying it now. It kind of feels like it levels off, but it's still really dragging up. And the guys who are going to be sitting 6th wheel, 7th wheel, you're just in the perfect spot. You just got to wait. You need to be patient. You need to wait and wait. That's how you're going to win.
Well, with just over 2 minutes remaining to the flag drop of the men's race here in Harrogate, of course, on the Yorkshire course at the World Championships. So John Mould is once again alongside me. Now, that did look like a rather tough recce.
Yeah, it was. It was a real tough time riding the course. But if any of the men have been watching that the live stream, they should know that an attack can go to the finish. So hopefully some of them had a look at it and they're going to be really aggressive tonight.
Aggressive is the word, though, isn't it? And what did you make of the women's race?
It was a really exciting one. Really, really good race. And the attack from Hansen really showed early on over that KOM. And then Huback came across to her. And, yeah, they worked well together. Perfect teammates, really.
They really did. I'm sure we'll have time to talk about that race a little bit more. But moving on for now to the action from the men. John, let's have a look at the teams lining up. 17 community teams.
Yeah, that's, it's a strong lineup of riders. The whole team. They've been racing on these Zwift Classics quite a lot. So they're all experienced here. It's a new course. They'll all be willing to get stuck in. And hopefully one of them gets a really good win tonight.
Yeah, I think we can expect definitely more of the same tonight. What a race we've just seen, and plenty more coming up. Now, there's some names on the screen now that we've seen instrumental in previous races that I know you've been alongside me for. Who have you picked out tonight?
Well, Brad Guveris was the last winner out in the Watopia Cup, so of course he's got good sprint on him, but of course this longer, harder drag to the finish might not suit him as well. But Samuel Bronland, a really strong rider, mountain biker originally, and he's racing on Zwift quite a lot, so he's my pick for tonight. I think he's going to go early, and he'll catch everyone off guard.
Oof, good. Getting in with the early predictions there. Just 13 seconds to go till the start of the race here in Harrogate. All to play for the men, and another exciting one coming up as we have the countdown now, and we are going to see these riders, this incredibly talented field, take to the course now, which is, of course, very, very new to these riders. And that's going to be an interesting element tonight, is that it's a bit of the unknown.
Yeah, as you can see straight away, everyone's flat out. It drags for around 2k. Really hard start, to be honest. If you're not warmed up and you're not aware of this early start, you could be spat straight out at the back. So as you can see, everyone full on here. This really going off.
What kind of warm up? I know there's always a warm up needed, but what kind of warm up is needed for something like this tonight?
Anything. You go to a track race. You spend a lot of time on the rollers. You don't just sit around doing nothing. You have to be warm before the race starts. So it's kind of similar to anything like a cyclocross start or a mountain bike cross country race. If you watch any of that, it's flat out from the gun. This is what Zwift racing has always been about since it ever started. Just seeing if they can catch anyone off guard. But as you can see, a big group here all together.
Yeah, in the women's action, we saw some moves very, very early. People trying to get those gaps formed straight away, but everyone was straight on it. And this is a mass. This is a very big group, as you say. Everybody paying absolute top attention.
Yeah, as you can see, a few little power-ups being used there. The draft power-up getting used quite early, probably as you only get a few chances to get a power-up. If you just want to get rid of that draft power up, you're not going to save it until the end. You're hoping just to get rid of it now, make it a little bit easier for yourself on this drag, and then hopefully you get a feather one or an aero or whatever your chosen power up, and save that until the finish.
Well, you've mentioned those all-important power-ups, but at this point, I know we've got loads of eyes on the Zwift world tonight, and some of those eyes for the first time. So could you just talk us through what you mean by some of those power-ups?
Yeah, so of course, the first of all, there's the aero power-up, which is an aerodynamic boost for 15 seconds, which is the most preferred for any sprint you go into. And then, of course, there's the draft power-up, which we've seen being used already, but that increases your draft effect by 50%. Basically, makes it easier for yourself in the wheels. Then you have the feather power-up, which does what it says on the tin. It makes you as light as a feather, or about 16 kilos lighter than you actually are. So that helps on a climb. And then, of course, the invisibility power-up, that stops anyone in the race being able to see you, so hopefully you can sneak off an attack. And then the burrito, which doesn't allow any of the other riders to sit on your wheel and get an advantage from being in the wheel and drafting you.
I love it. And we can always see it at the top of the rider on the screen above their head, so we know exactly when they're being employed as a key tactic. But we're seeing some moves happen now at the front.
It's just kind of stretched out a little bit. It's kind of early, like testing each other's legs, seeing who's going to react first and who's going to panic. It is a very big group. If you're sat in that bunch now, you can see round. You can see that it's a big peloton, so you're not going to be stressing too much. You just want to make sure you're not going to lose any gap and lose any wheels. You just want to just sit there, relax, take a breather, and get ready for the rest of the race. Because, of course, with 24.8k to go, as you see, there's one attack off the front, and that's just kind of a little sneaky move there, as you can see.
Yeah, a little sneaky move there, being very much marked by a rider trying to come across now. It's Mads Bang Anderson, who went off the front first, and he has just been overtaken.
Another attack. There's two riders just slipped away from the group, and the group behind is going to have to react. You can't just let Clark ride off. Even though 24k to go, he's just stretched that group out to 500 watts already. 177 beats a minute. That 100 RPM, perfect RPM. You just want to be on top of that gear, making a good little tempo and feeling good about yourself. And these two riders now, Berg and Clark, just drifting away. And if they don't react soon, they're going to have to get, as you can see there, Berg in the aero tuck, freewheeling, taking a breath, and they're both riding really smart here.
Yeah, it's a very smart move indeed, isn't it, early on? And we saw that power data there already going above 400 watts, just pretty much off the start line. 24.8 kilometres remaining. Got 2 laps tonight, so exactly the same format for the men's race as we saw earlier with the women. And we've got some important points coming up to talk about as well. King of the Mountain and intermediate sprints tonight, and points from 1st to 5th place.
Yeah, and that's another competition to take into account. For if you don't want to go for the win, you can go for one of these. And there's another counter-attack straight over the top from the teammate of Clark. And again, it's just stretched out. But Atterman, I don't think he's going to hold on, but they're just wearing out the sprinter's legs here. I think they've got a plan. If they've got a sprinter, he can just sit there. 184 beats a minute, you know. You can't really see that effort on the riders on the avatar, but he's at home. He's sweating all over his bike, top tube, stem, everything. There's water everywhere.
That's the thing, and we've said this before, haven't we? These avatars look very, very calm, very smooth, but of course, that is quite different to the reality at home. As you say, sweating everywhere.
Yeah, there's no hiding there. His bar tape's already sodden. He's around 20k to go, so that's unenjoyable on your hands there. But as you can see, that group's already come back together, and it's kind of just a seeing out process. Who's got good legs, and who's just sitting back and waiting and hoping everyone else uses their efforts. And you've got that bit of advantage left at the end, and you can take the win.
Yeah, and sometimes we see riders make a move, maybe for an intermediate sprint point later in the race, realise they've got a gap, as we saw earlier, and they just press on and they just utilise it. But I think when you see people make such an intentional move early on, that's a real plan, isn't it? You mentioned it briefly in terms of tiring out the legs, but people must come in and say, right, this is what we're going to do early doors.
Yeah, you'd hope so. That if you wanted to win this properly, you're going to have to. You don't use your teammates in the same way as on the road or in any crits. It's kind of just using efforts, making it harder for everyone else. If one guy says, "I'm going to wait, guys. I'm going to wait for the sprint. I'm not going to do anything," leave your teammates up to they're free to do what they want. They make it as hard as possible, making sure, and all that sprinter's job is to stay in the wheels, save as much, then he wins. But of course, if you're riding like that, you've got more options up the road, and if it does split, then you're in an advantage position because you've got riders up the road ready.
And let's talk about the finish, albeit 23.2 kilometres away from us now, but we will see them come past the Zwift draft house when they enter lap 2. But tell us a bit about that drag up to the line. You mentioned it, but some people are just tuning in now.
Yeah, it kicks up really steep with 500 metres to go. It feels like it levels off, but it's still dragging up over around 5%, down to 4%. But yeah, that first little kicker where the right-hand turn is to the Zwift house is really, really hard. And if you're not on it there, someone could get a gap, and if they're strong, they can hold it all the way to the top. So it doesn't suit the out-and-out sprinter, but it suits a lot of guys. If you're feeling good and it's been a hard race, you've got a chance with this finish.
And that's what makes it so wide open tonight, doesn't it? As well as it being relatively new. You know, it's quite difficult for us to say, yes, that's the kind of rider it's going to suit.
Yeah, it depends how it's raced. As you can see, the women's race earlier on, that was really aggressive. So if the men race like that, I think this KOM could split it to pieces. And if there's a group together over the top of 3-4 guys, they can hold on to the win. So I really don't know how it's going to play out, but definitely, I'll be sat there doing absolutely nothing for the whole race and just hoping I've got good legs in the sprint.
Of course you would.
Yeah, that's a smart move for me, I think. You wouldn't want to be attacking. You just need to sit there, wait, and go for the sprint at the end.
You can see Chris Beck up there. We've seen him very instrumental in previous races in the classics.
Yeah, as you see, we're just looking at Reece Baldwin's data. There's a little attack here from Beck, but it's kind of an early one. I think he's being smart about it. He's riding at 5.3 watts per kilo. He is working hard there, but he's not flat out. He's just he knows that group's going to come back to him. He knows when it goes down the little descent and then it'll hit the stone wall up to the KOM. He just needs to just keep the momentum going now. Keep it going, keep it rolling, and you don't want to get caught out when that group eventually catches him.
Yeah, just seeing, little gaps opening up there, but a big group behind and a couple of people trying to mark this as well.
Yeah, again, it's just the kind of waiting behind. They know it's going to hit that KOM and it's going to go flat out. So as you can see, Beck now down to 4.2 watts per kilo. Hopefully he's just riding 300 watts, 330. It's not nothing crazy here. He's just making sure the gap is staying the same. He's not going flat out. It's still 21k to go. So yeah, it's 90 RPM, 162 beats. He's definitely not flat out.
Chris Beck there, as you say, just measuring that effort. Somebody, a name we're very familiar with in the world of Zwift. We've seen him make moves like this previously. And just go again and back up his performances. Really impressive to watch. But lots of interest, as ever, with bringing this back with 20.7 kilometres remaining and everything to play for in terms of the King of the Mountain points and those intermediate sprints. And, of course, the big win at the end of 2 laps.
And as we can see now, this is the descent to the bottom of the KOM. they're all going to be thinking about the KOM. If you want to go for that KOM point, you're going to have to be in a good position at the bottom of it. Even if you're just going to try and save your legs, you're going to be fighting for to be at the front so you can drift back. So, of course, Beck, if he's smart here, he doesn't have to ride anywhere near as hard as those guys because they have to close a gap to him to get across to him. So if he's going to save his legs, this is the perfect time.
He's in a great
As
position
you can see,
here.
but that speed of the bunch came back in so fast. And if Beck's not on it here, he's going to go straight out the back. As you can see, the front of the race is exploded straight away as soon as it's gone uphill.
Oh my goodness. Well, of course, that big injection of pace indicated the start of the first King of the Mountain point, and it is absolutely on. In the women's race just earlier, we saw how fast the field took that turn and lined it out for this first point to be gained basically in the mountain competition. But you can just see how hard it is going from the front now and very likely to start splitting. We had gaps of about 2-3 seconds, and as you saw, it just got chased down so quickly.
As you can see, all those feather power-ups just came out of nowhere. Just green lights all over the screen. They've all used them quite early. I wrote it. It's around just over 2-minute effort. And it's flat out. There's no hiding when it's that length of time. You're all out, and you're going to see who's got the legs over the top. But it looks like Vujasin is kind of lining it out. Is it kind of settled again as we get closer to the KOM point, and who's going to sprint away to take that win?
What are we going to see tonight? Are we going to see a small group get away? Will we see a solo breakaway? Well, we've got one rider here attacking out front as we get towards the big banner indicating the end of the first King of the Mountain classification. We've got points from first place down to 4. And it's still all to play for as we can just see people at the back there stringing out, trying to keep in contention.
And it's Vujasin who's really lit it up here. 765 watts, 189 beats a minute. It looks like he might hold on. He's opened up a 2-second gap quite quickly. And it looks like the Canyon ZCC rider might be taking the points at the top of this first lap on the KOM.
Wow. And you look down, you can see how small those gaps are, but it does indeed look like Vujasin took it there on that mountain classification. We'll get confirmation of who followed him, albeit with a gap behind, very shortly. Let's have a look at that moment again and see if we can get confirmation of who topped out the next 3 places behind Lionel Vujasin.
It looked like Sedgwick came across to Vujasin, and it's kind of now 2 riders have kind of breaked away from that group. And as you can see on the right-hand side, the gaps are just, they've all opened up. It's all splitting behind. And if this group at the front carries on riding like they can probably hold this gap and make the guys behind work really hard to get back to them.
Well, Lionel Vujasin, we saw the gap visually there. We knew he'd taken that. 5 points was the maximum, and he took it.
And a great win there. Look, I think it's a group of 6 there, just off the front of that group. 2 in front and then 4 behind. But that group behind still 25 strong. So that momentum of that group behind is going to bring it all back together. But as you can see, Sedgwick's number's 351 watts. And Clark with him, 188. You can see the difference. If you're on the wheel, you're going so much easier. You just saw Sedgwick 355. Larson behind him was 210. So it really shows the advantage of a group working well together. They're going to go a lot faster than 2 riders out there.
Definitely, and we can't underestimate the benefit of being sat in that, as you say. 17.5 kilometres remaining, still on lap 1, and we've had the first King of the Mountain, which means next is the sprint.
And they're all just lining up for this now. Whoever's keen to go for the sprint, you're going to start getting in position. Again, power-ups being used already, feather power-ups on the front, here, there, and everywhere. No one's. If you've got an aero, I don't think you're going to use it. So maybe people are using their draft, and hopefully they get a power up that they prefer.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'd be certainly hoping for that as across the line.
But as you see, a burrito at the front of the race, perfect timing. He's undraftable at the front now, that means. So, of course, Vujasin, who just won the KOM, is trying to hold the wheel, but he can't hold it. Bird used that burrito perfectly, and then Vujasin has held the wheel perfectly, and it looks like he's going to try and go for the sprint and the KOM tonight.
Well, that line in the road that we just saw glowing means that this is the start of the first sprint of the day, and Vujasin was not going to let him get that.
And he's timed it perfectly. 786 watts, winner of the KOM and now the sprint. again, he's got really good legs today.
Mightily impressive.
Perfect timing. And Bird was a bit unfortunate there. Used the burrito power up at the right time, I thought, but Vujasin was too strong.
I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? I mean, to use that perfectly, normally we'd see that pay off, but Vujasin just wasn't letting him get away. Let's have a little look at that first sprint of the day. Yet again, Lionel Vujasin taking maximum points there. Very, very strong riding from him tonight.
Yeah, perfect timing. As you can see, those 3 riders who went for the sprint kind of got a little gap from that group behind, but I don't think Bird or Vujasin should be really keen to carry on with this. As you can see, as I just speak that, commentator's curse, Beck has gone straight over the top of them, and that bit of hesitation, he's taken it to his advantage.
Once again, he goes for it. Let's have a look at what that has done behind and what sort of gaps are opening up. Yet again, not too big if you look down at the top 10 positions at the moment. 2 seconds here, 3 seconds there. But, you know, anyone caught napping and that gap's going to go up.
Yeah, definitely. These 3 now, they've made a big effort at that sprint. You can't forget that they all went for that sprint. So they've all gone full gas at one point. So, you know, their legs are going to be tired. You can't just think they're going to carry on with an effort. So they've just held that gap. And if they're smart about it, as long as they don't get caught out, that group will come back to them. And they've just got to relax and catch their breath.
Yeah, as we see a few riders, they're splintering off the back. That's really a place you don't want to be.
No, as you can see, Martin Veng on the front, 319 watts. It seems like it's an easy pace here, but it hasn't gone. I haven't seen anyone below 300 watts really.
Doesn't sound easy to me.
it's really on. That's high zone 3, as you can see. We're coming up. This is the little sneak preview of what we're going to have to come. With 500 meters to go, you'll turn right here. Oh no, actually, it's coming up to a K to go. I've got my.
You're getting
I'm
over
getting all
excited.
confused. I thought it was past the draft house.
We're nearly there.
I thought they'd all be running out to cheer on the race, but I guess they're all enjoying it on the screens in the draft house at the moment. So.
And it has been buzzing in the draft house, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a great location, and hopefully they're enjoying a good night watching this now, and hopefully they're enjoying a nice cup of tea while they watch it, not anything else.
Well, it does, as you say, give us an opportunity to see that run into the finish, and it is certainly not a straightforward one, albeit straight, it's not flat.
No, it's definitely not. As you can see, that right-hand turn there, that little drag, this is where it's really steep. So with all these riders using the feather power-ups here, there, and everywhere, and the draft power-ups, it feels like that's the sprint for the finish, but we've got 14K to go yet. Someone should tell them.
It's just an indication of how hot the pace has been tonight, isn't it? And just what a field that we've got in contention for this win. No one's letting anything go.
No, everyone's involved there. Vujasin, you can see he's quite distinctive with that leather cap on, flat cap. Maybe he's just got that because it's a Yorkshire round, but yeah, everyone seems to be on it. You can see that. You can see the whole way up to the finish. So if you're racing, you can see that finish line, and the temptation to go early is just it's so great. But people, if you want to win, you need to wait.
Yeah. Certainly looks to be that way as they cross the line and now come into lap 2 of 2, just 13.8 kilometres remaining, and it's going to be a mightily quick 13 kilometres.
Yeah, and as you see, just as we went across the finish line, there was a lot of draft power-ups being used. People are the riders are getting rid of them. As soon as you go across a finish line, a KOM or a sprint, you get a chance to roll the dice and you get a chance to get a new power-up. If you get a draft one, you're going to want to use it. You're not going to win with a draft power-up. So it's all about playing the waiting game, gambling, and making sure you get the right power-up for that finish.
Again, this front group swelling, people trying to get away, but no one wants to allow that to happen. You know, of course, earlier on, for anyone that joined us for the action from the women, we saw some devastating gaps form and actually never be caught back. But here, still a very big group remaining together.
It is. It's this is the time now where everyone's kind of taking a breather. They know where the hardest part of the race is, so I don't think there's going to be much action here. If there is a little group of 3, 4, maybe they can sneak off, but to be honest, everyone's been aware of that, so I don't think it's going to happen. But I do have to say one thing. Vujasin is the only one from Canyon ZCC who's been involved in this race so far, so he's got 4 teammates sat there doing absolutely nothing. So riders like Alex West and James Phillips, this is perfect for them. They let Vujasin make it really hard for everyone else, and they're there at the end to make sure they win that sprint.
Yeah, as you say that, and we see the familiar colours of their team amassing in this group.
Yeah, they're all over it. There's a lot of good teams here with Team Turbo as well. They're always going to be, Brad Gavaris won that Watopia Cup in great style a couple of weeks ago. So of course, I don't think that sprint would have disappeared overnight. So he's another favourite for tonight, and of course Ollie Jones. But it's been quite quiet. It seems like Rugerson and Bird of the draft team have really taken it on, and it's kind of everyone else is being patient. So yeah, take hats off to them. They're riding like they should do, and it's going to be an exciting one when it comes down. And if it's a group like this, it's going to be really hard fought.
I am loving that flat cap. It's brilliant.
That is a beautiful flat cap. He's really worked hard for that. I think you get up to quite a high level to get that flat cap. So he's wearing it with pride in Yorkshire as well. Maybe he's going to stop it off at a farm and call his sheepdog in and get the sheep in halfway around. He's obviously got good enough legs. He can stop, get the sheep in, and then get back on.
Absolutely no problem for this rider, would it? And you've mentioned the sheep a couple of times, but I was saying to Hannah earlier, not much time to look at this scenery.
No, you've got no time at all. No, it's always one of those things. People always say, "Oh, it was nice around there. Yorkshire's lovely," but in a race like this, you've got no time. You're concentrating on what's going on in that bike race. So, you can have a look back. You can watch it back on YouTube and have a look at the views afterwards if you don't want to watch the race.
And appreciate the sights of the sheep as well. 12.1 kilometres remaining now on this second lap. Just 2 laps of the race tonight, albeit at a very hot pace indeed. And you mentioned there the element of patience. And actually, it's not always easy to sit back and just bide your time.
It is very hard. If you've got good legs, you're really keen and you want to use them. But it's just a professional bike rider. If you have got the patience to use it at the right time, as we just see an attack with a burrito as well. So undraftable, a great timed attack again from Bird, who's been an animator of this race so far.
Bruce Bird there in the red kit distinctively, and he looks to be getting a gap now. Let's have a little look at what that's done. Again, quite small gaps behind, but this could be an interesting move.
And again, it's Beck chasing that Bird back again. So I don't know whether those two don't get on or something. They're not letting each other get anywhere. So it seems like Bird and Beck are fighting it out, and then Vujasin pops up and takes the KOM or the sprint. So as you can see down that descent, that group's all come back together again.
Yeah, see the swamp there. Definitely got an eye on each other tonight, certainly. But you mentioned a couple of the riders in this field tonight that have already taken wins previously in a classic. How much confidence does that carry through?
Yeah, you're confident in your racing, and as long as you keep to that style and make sure you're confident in yourself, you know you've got good legs. You can't do anything else. So the confidence breeds more success. So like anyone who's been racing on it enough, you're going to get stuck in, and hopefully you can take the win again.
And I think as well, we are just seeing so much talent emerge in Zwift racing, and people that perhaps came into it with strength but didn't really tactically get it as much as some of the community teams. Well, those days are gone because this group is a very experienced group.
Yeah, we've been racing on it quite a long time now, and everyone's getting used to it, how it races, and the best way of doing everything. So again, now with 10k to go, everyone's at home, hopefully having a drink and just waiting and biding their time, ready for how it's all going to kick off. With around 6k to go, we start that KOM, and then from then, it's pretty much a flat-out effort for 6k.
Wow, just over 10 kilometres remaining. This race is certainly flying by, isn't it, so far? Still, plenty more action coming up, plenty more to pay for, and this group's still together.
Yep, all together, as you can see, the SZR team, all the Swedish-based team, quite near the front, all grouping up together. So maybe they've got a plan. I'm not sure, but as you can see, that group is quite large still, and there's a lot of guys there who we haven't mentioned, we haven't seen. So hopefully there's some strong legs left to play at the end.
Chris Beck, rider data we can see now, we've definitely seen him a lot.
But as you can see, 133 beats a minute. So all those efforts, it's not that high. He's recovered. He's made big efforts, but he's not going flat out here. And then you compare that to Lionel Vujasin, 171 beats a minute, the winner of the KOM and the sprint on the first lap. But again, it's a high heart rate, but he's riding at 190 watts, 346. He's going up and down. So you're still sat in the wheels. You're not making too much effort, where it's still just kind of low zone 3, high zone 3, so it's still in the aerobic zones. So it's an interesting one. Everyone's just biding their time and waiting.
A very different style of race. We knew it was going to be equally impressive and exciting, but a different element to how we saw it play out with the women a little bit earlier in Yorkshire on this really iconic course. And we've just got so many eyes on cycling this week. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's fantastic with the World's Road Race in Harrogate all week until with the races, the under-23 and the junior women tomorrow on Friday, and then the senior women's Saturday and the men's on Sunday. It's a festival of cycling that's been really enjoyable.
It really is inspiring so many people, and Zwift indeed getting so many people involved. As I said, so many people getting very experienced on Zwift and just really taking their racing to the next level.
And as the riders there, they went down Pot Bank Descent. From what I've heard, it is very technical out on the road, and you can see the speeds. Everyone was a lot of people were in the aero tuck. They weren't pedaling; they were just using that speed they get free on Zwift when you're going downhill. So there's a lot of guys there just taking a breather, making sure they're ready for the finish. But again, big group. I don't know who. I can't really pick a winner. I think I'll stick with Gaveris from earlier on and stick my hat on him.
Stick your Yorkshire cap on Brad Gaveris. We've seen him at the front of this group, but we're seeing some riders attempting to go off the front of him.
Yeah, that's a great attack from Nim there. 8.5 watts per kilo. It's kind of an early one. 8k to go. He's got 2k until that climb and a little descent to the bottom of it. So and it seems like Beck's going to answer straight away. He's been on it the whole time. He's not going to let one rider get away. He wants to make sure he's at the front, and he's really riding well for his team.
Yet again, it is a sight of Chris Beck that will not let anything go. He's marked and marked and marked already in this race, something we've seen him tactically do in previous races. He knows what he's got in the tank, and he's employing that now as he takes to the head of the action, and a big gap forming behind.
And he's gone straight over the top at Nim. He wasn't waiting around. He didn't want to sit on that wheel. He's gone up to 9 watts per kilo straight away. And Chris Beck, 550 watts, 169 beats a minute. I think this is his attack. He needs to make sure he's got that gap for the KOM because it's going to go downhill. But he needs to have the legs. But to be honest, he's riding really well. So if he's saved a bit, I don't think he has. But he's definitely in good form today.
He's certainly in good form, and this is what we get used to seeing, isn't it? Riders knowing exactly what they can do, when they can do it, and actually playing it to perfection. But yet again, we always are expecting some surprises towards the latter stages of these races because we do see it time and time again. Something looking like it's sewn up, and then it all comes back.
This is actually the time he really needs to put his power through those pedals. 133 watts is not enough to hold off that group behind. It might look like a big gap of 16 seconds, but when a bunch behind is moving together down to the descent, that gap's going to come back so quick. So Beck really needs to put those watts up to 300 minimum to have a chance. As he says, that 316 watts, 323 watts. He's getting ready for the climb, but as you can see, that gap behind has already come down, and Nim now trying to jump across.
And as we see, out on the road and in Zwift, is actually the rearranging happens before the climb quite often. And that's what we've seen on the previous lap and in the women's race on both laps, is that the group just swamps that breakaway rider.
And it's going to be the same here. The speed of that peloton behind is going to hit this KOM so much faster. Whereas Nim made a little attack. He got into the aero tuck, and they both hit the climb now. This is it. 6.2 kilometers to go, and it looks like Beck again has opened up the tank, and it's 8.2 watts per kilo with Beck chasing behind, but behind there you see Alex West jumping across, and that peloton is not far behind.
So we are on the second and final King of the Mountain of the day, and it has been Nim and Beck playing that cat and mouse. Beck just marking everything, trying to get a gap there. He's still leading, but it looks like he is being overtaken with the group bearing down now as well.
Again, Branlin came across, but Beck has gone again. He's counter-attacked himself, which is 9.2 watts per kilo. The man's unstoppable tonight.
Chris Beck, as you say, he goes yet again. He's got more in the tank to go on this second climb of the day. And that gap is still there at the moment, albeit some very small gaps. Is he going to get swamped on the line?
It looks like there's Bay from Team Draft just coming up the side. But, of course, you can just see that little Yorkshire flat cap from Vujasin in the right position again. Perfect time with James Phillips of the Canyon ZCC team. Already fighting out for this second KOM.
Well, it was Chris Beck that wanted to get that. He went again and counterattacked. And it looks like it has all come back together as it really does drag up here.
It is now. This is it. There's all the power-ups being used. There's an aero power-up, 2 aero power-ups being used for the KOM. This means you must be going flat out. If I had an aero power-up, I'd save it for the finish. But it looks like the feather power-up on the right-hand side coming from Bolton, I think it was, and it's perfect timing now, fighting out for this KOM.
Well, everybody's had to respond, haven't they? They've all had to pull it out of the bag, use the power-ups that they possibly can, because it has been absolutely on this second climb. And it is the site of Vigison with the flat cap, yet again here in Yorkshire, that fights to the line. Did he take it? That was close.
It was a really close one there between Larson and Vigison. I think we have to get a photo finish on that one, but look at it. Look at that little gap already opened up, 4.9k to go. If Vigeson's got good legs, you want to keep this gap going and try and hold on for the win.
He certainly will want to keep that going, and it wouldn't be any surprise if he does have good legs, because I've seen the attacks come thick and fast from the guy in the flat cap tonight. And let's see if we can get confirmation of what did happen over the line there in the second climb of the day, of course, in that King of the Mountain classification. Let's take another look. Did Vigison take it? That does look like a photo finish to me. See if we can get confirmation of those points up very shortly for you.
But as you can see, Vigeson's obviously decided it's not going to stay away. But as we look back, got confirmation of that photo, it was Larson who pipped Vigeson. But I think Vigeson should hang on to the KOM overall. But he won't want to. That's not what he wanted. It'll have to go back and count back. 8 points each.
Yeah, so it's Vigison and Larson, as you say, both sitting on 8 points at the moment. And it is Sedbrook that takes 2 points there. Diagnat with 1.
And as you can see now, 3.8 kilometers to go. These little kickers coming up into the finish are a little launch pad for anybody who wants to attack. So if you're not a sprinter here, you've got opportunity. So I'm expecting to see a lot more attacks going on coming into this finish.
Well, picking some of those key contenders out, and it's Vigeson's teammates now that do amass at the front. You said they'd been pretty quiet, but with 3.5k to go, there they are.
Yeah, and it's a reduced bunch. You see those power-ups being used kind of in a weird time. A feather power-up on a straight and no real drag. So obviously they're hoping across the sprint they can get a better aero power-up or a burrito power-up for the finish. Whereas all this group now, 3.3k to go. No attacks. Diagnat from Canyon ZCC looks like he's leading it out. This is perfect tactics. He's making that group as fast as possible, making sure that group behind doesn't get back.
Yeah, perfect tactic from their team. Well, we can see Vigison in his flat cap. We've seen him go for it. His teammate now is lining it out on the front, keeping the pace high. And they want to see more and more sprinters form in this group. As you can just see, the devastation behind that group. 3 kilometers remaining, and we're coming up to that sprint.
And Bird and Vigesson both using aero power-ups in that sprint. But it looks like Bird, perfectly timed, 11.8 watts per kilo for that sprint. And it looks like he's going to take a perfect timed sprint and a perfect win.
Yeah, looked like Bird took that with conviction, the final sprint. In the familiar red colours, Bruce Bird there.
Is he going to carry on? That's perfect timing. 328 watts. He's got 2.5k to go. He's got opened up a gap from that sprint, but it looks like behind, no one's going to let him go. And it looks like Ollie Jones from Team Turbo is closing it down with James Phillips just behind.
Well, yeah. Bird would have wanted to carry that on, very much so, but again, got swamped by people with an interest to bring that back. We've said it already this evening, but nothing is getting away easily. There's so much talent in this group, and they are absolutely on it here in Yorkshire.
And it looks like Diagnat, again, is committed to ride in the front and making it hard for everyone else, keeping that speed as high as possible. A little ghost power-up being used. Hopefully he can just use that to sneak off, but with the speed the riders are riding at, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, we've seen it already tonight, haven't we? Tactics that we normally see work, but nobody letting it go, namely Vigison.
Yeah, with 1.7 kilometers to go. This is it. This is crunch time. Everyone's thinking about that sprint. Are you going to go for an early one? Are you going to wait and try and pip it at the line? It's a really hard finish. You don't want to just go flat out, as you see, just turn right, little kicker here. If anyone's got any legs, they want to go for the attack early on.
And how hard is it going to be to time that, though? We saw yet again with the women's race. Actually, that drag just goes on and on and on. You think, right, we're in a kilometre to go. It's all to play for now. But actually, it takes much longer to get to that line than you perhaps think with the gradient there. So what is the perfect timing here?
If you're in a good position, if you're fifth wheel, you can just ride off everyone else's efforts and then hit it as it levels off, and you use that at the end. But the way it's going, it's going to be a real thought-out sprint from a group of around 20 riders here.
Couple more turns to go, and then we are going to look out for the Zwift draft house on that infamous corner that takes us into that final drag. Once again, it is Beck that takes the front, but once again, it's very marked.
Again, Beck. He's obviously got great legs today. With 800 metres to go, it's going to be a thought-out sprint. Brad Gavaris, just see his name pop up there, winner in the Watopia Cup. He's definitely got a good sprint on him. As you can see, it's being lined out here by the SZR team, the Swedish team, starting it off early.
Oh my goodness, as we make the final turn now, approaching 500 metres to go, the Zwift draft house there on the corner, and it is everything to the line now.
And it's Vang of the KRT team with everyone with these feather power-ups. Everyone is absolute Beck, lighting it up, and it looks like it's a full-on sprint with still 330 metres to go. Alex West, perfect position with James Phillips as well. Aero power-ups being used here, there, and everywhere. It looks like James Phillips, 186 beats a minute, over 1,100 watts. What a perfectly timed attack. Vujicin's made it hard for everyone else tonight. And it looks like Phillips perfectly timed that sprint. Has he got the legs to hold on? I'm not sure, but it looks like Brad Gavaris pipped him at the line. Perfectly timed again. The Watopia Cup winner wins the Yorkshire Grand Prix as well. Perfectly timed. Brad Gavaris. Didn't see him all day. What a win.
Well, I have to say that you called that. You did call Gavaris.
I said Gavaris from the start. I'm going to hold that. That was a great call. I'm really happy with that. I'm more chuffed than him, probably. What a win from Gavaris. Perfectly timed.
This is the moment he crossed the line to take the victory. It looked like Phillips had that sewn up there, but we said anything could happen. It certainly did after they passed that Zwift draft house, and it was your pick of the day, Brad Gavaris, that took another win for Team Turbo.
And as you can see, Phillips, he went quite early. It was 300 metres to go. He opened that gap. But to hold on that effort, it's a long time on that drag. And Gavaris must have just sat there perfectly. Fourth wheel, and he came over to win by 0.2 of a second, which is quite a big gap to Bay, and then Larson with taking third place.
Yeah, confirmation of that overall result. Oh my goodness, what a race we've seen. Gavaris, Bay, Larson, Phillips, we're there as well, Segbrook. Very exciting night.
Yeah, perfectly timed by Gavaris. It was an exciting one. There was quite a lot of attacks, and as you can see now, they turned right here, and all these feather power-ups were being used. They all started hitting them early. If you had that time, you used it on the steeper part of the climb, but you can see all those orange numbers on the right-hand side. Everyone over 12 watts per kilo. And you can see James Phillips, 836 watts. He was kind of holding on to it, and then he went. And he went with 330 metres to go, which is a really, really long way. And he looked like he opened a gap, but that group behind just slowly came back to him, and Phillips just died, and he just couldn't hang on any longer. But as you can see now, 200 metres to go. Look at the size of that gap.
Yeah, I mean, we said, didn't we, that timing would be absolutely key, because it must be that devastating moment where you're almost there, but then you just get swamped on the line. We do see it time and time again.
And that was perfect time from Gavaris. He waited and opened his sprint up later on, 150 metres to go, and he had that acceleration just to kick, made sure he got round Phillips, and Bay followed him for second place.
Two very different race scenarios tonight, but equally impressive and exciting.
Yeah, from the women's race, I guess none of the men watched the women's race. They must have been too busy warming up, so they all stuck together for a sprint, whereas the women's race split to pieces over that KOM. So two completely different races on exactly the same course.
Well, intermediate sprint points really did animate the race tonight. So let's have a look at those final standings. It was Olsen with 15. Well, Vijaysin there. Let's get confirmation, actually, of those points.
it looked like Vujasin had taken the other one, and then Bird were really fighting it out. So you would have to have a double check on that. I definitely saw Bird win that last sprint, didn't we, in the second
Yeah,
sprint? He
not
timed it
sure
perfectly
we
with
can
that
go with
aero
those
power
points.
up. So, you know, Vujasin, who's made it really hard for himself in that flat cap, but he's definitely been a part of the race today.
Yeah, brilliant moves from him tonight. So we will update that for you very, very shortly.
And then that big KOM battle. I think Vujasin won the first one, and it was all down to Larson, who finished second. And think how close that is. I think Larson pipped him on the line, and it was all count back, so 8 points each. So it seems like Larson would have taken it back on count back because he won the last KOM.
Here we go then. Vujasin, 8 points. Larson, 8. Sedgwick, 3. Van took 2, and Dagner there with 1.
Yeah, tie for the thing. So they're going to have to do rock, paper, scissors or something to make sure they decide who wins
right
that. I think Vujasin definitely animator of that race. So even if he hasn't won, he's really shown what he can do today.
Well, confirmation of that overall result in the men's race. Brad Gavaris for Team Turbo taking the top spot of the standings there. SRAM Bay for Fusion there in second, and Ryan Larson, indoor specialist, taking third. We had 2 races for you tonight, though. This is the winning moment in the women's race earlier tonight. And what a race it was. Unpredictable from the gun, moves left, right and centre. But it came down to 2 teammates on the line, and Cecilia Hansen took the victory from her teammate Louise Huback.
Yeah, and that was a really aggressive race there in the women's race, and 2 teammates up the road from that KOM. So Hansen 1.4 seconds up with Huback on the line, and then that sprint behind from that group, Mary Wilkinson with a deserving 3rd place.
Well, what have you made of it overall tonight? I know you'd recce'd these courses, you'd looked at what might be likely. Did it play out as expected?
It was, it was a really open course. We recce'd it and knew that the racing would take hold of it. It wasn't too hard, but it was hard enough to make a split if they needed to, or a group together at the sprint. So it's just how the race was raced, and as you can see, exactly the same courses. 2 riders away in the women's, and then probably around a group of 15 to 20 riders came into that finish in the men's race, which is still quite a big group.
Well, it's been absolutely brilliant here. We've certainly got very excited here in the commentary box. Thank you so much to John and for Hannah joining me in commentary tonight. So wins tonight for Gavaris and Hansen in absolutely stunning finale in the Zwift Classics. We'll have more racing for you in October, but until then, we'll leave you with just a taste of the atmosphere at the Zwift Draft House in Harrogate last night. There's races every evening during the World Championships, so if you're in the area, come on in and join the fun. Bye-bye.